Hello, I'm Gary Rhodes from the Marriott School of Management at Brigham Young University. Welcome to the Entrepreneur Lecture Series. Today our guest is Trent Kimball, founder and owner of Texas Armoring Corporation, a leading innovator in the design and manufacture of lightweight, transparent, and opaque armor for automotive and architectural applications located in San Antonio, Texas, specializing in the manufacture of bulletproof cars and armored vehicles. Trent has grown his business to serve a large international client base. Currently, his manufacturing facility is undergoing massive expansions that will double its capacity. He has spent the past 12 years managing and operating the company and providing armored vehicles to the world's elite. Through his business, Trent has had the unique opportunity to travel the world and meet with executives, diplomats, industrials, politicians, and high-level government officials. Trent and his wife, Courtney, reside in San Antonio, Texas, with their 6 children. The Rollins Center of Entrepreneurship and Technology welcomes Trent Kimball to the Entrepreneur Lecture Series. Well, hey, it's great to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
And you came from San Antonio to this wonderful cool weather we have today.
That's right. We're up here doing some skiing. So.
Okay, big difference. So, you know, this is an exciting topic for our viewers, I'm sure. I mean, you know, you make armored vehicles. I mean, you protect people from gun battles and all these kinds of things.
That's right.
And so it must be an exciting business. I bet knowing the business you're in, you're always in the news.
That's right. We are always in the news, and that's one advantage that we have. We constantly strive for that free publicity, and
right.
and it's out there for us anytime we want it. So it's nice.
That's good, but it's probably hard. All the demands too. You have to decide which kind of live wire you're going to give attention to.
That's right. Yeah, we have to make sure that we pick and choose which publicity is actually going to benefit us. Otherwise, we would just be doing local news all the time.
Okay. And wasn't it just yesterday or that you were on TV? Tell me about that.
Yeah, they contacted us from Geraldo. I didn't even know he was still on TV, but Geraldo Rivera on the Fox News channel, and they contacted us, and we were on Saturday night live nationwide on the Fox News channel there. So.
Well, that's a great thing when you have a product that has so much wow factor that people want to hear about it.
It is. It's one thing. We save so much on advertising that way.
Yeah. Well, Trent, you're one of our youngest founders in the Center of Entrepreneurship and Technology here. And I think we'd like to know more about you. We know your wife. I've met Courtney, wonderful woman. I mean, I don't know how you got so lucky.
Neither do I.
And your 6 children. And we had a great time at the winter retreat with you at the Founders Retreat. And as always, it's fun. But we always like to hear more about your business. It's a business you can't hear enough about.
That's right. I think everybody and the founders that go on these retreats know more about my business than I know about theirs,
yeah.
Because they're always asking questions. It's an interesting business. My wife says, you know, once a grown man hears about my business, they turn into little boys.
Yeah.
So, because I mean, it involves guns and automobiles,
yeah.
And that's what we love.
Yeah, we all want to drive an armored vehicle.
That's right.
It's sometime in our life,
whether
right?
we need it or not.
Yeah, whether we need it or not. Well, let's start from how did you get into this business? I mean, it's just not something you come out of school and you just say, I want to be an armored vehicle manufacturer, you know?
No, that's true. No, the way I got involved, I was involved in it from a very young age. My father actually had the same type of business when I was growing up. He as a former DEA agent,
right.
he noticed the need for armored vehicles in the different countries we lived, and so he actually is the brains or the actual person that thought about this idea, right. Brought it in to what it is, and so he had the similar company that he sold while I was on my mission, and so when I came back from my mission, I was pretty heartbroken. You know, that's something that I wanted to do. I wanted to just go in and take over his business, but that didn't happen that way. So
he'd sold it.
He did sell it. He
yeah.
sold it, and his partner that bought it from him actually gave it to his son, and that guy ran it into the ground.
Oh.
So, but in 2 years, the armoring company in San Antonio, one of the 5 in the nation,
right.
no longer existed. So at that point, my father knew that I was in school, and he knew my struggles with school because I'm not the...
Because you're such an entrepreneur.
That's right. Yeah, entrepreneurs don't always do well in school. Anyway.
Especially when they're doing other things.
That's right. That's right. So he gave me the idea to start my own business, and so He didn't want to get involved anymore. He was done. He had done that.
Harvested
been there,
it,
done
yeah.
that. Yeah, he didn't want to get involved, and so basically, with some counseling from him, I got started in about 1995. What I call brokering armored vehicles.
Okay, and explain that.
The way it is, we didn't actually have a manufacturing facility. I actually sold for other manufacturers.
Oh, okay.
So I'd gather the clients up. I'd push my name out there. You know, the Kimball name. It has a recognition in the armoring industry.
Right.
Push my name out there, gather clients up, and just start selling for a manufacturer. So I was kind of like their representative.
Which are now your competitors.
Which are now my competitors. Yeah. That's right.
So how did you move from there to starting your own manufacturing plant?
Well, as any representative, as anybody knows, you always have problems with your suppliers. So we have problems with the suppliers. They weren't producing enough of the vehicles on time, or just different things like that. It wasn't quality. It wasn't what I liked. So I just started saying, you know what, we need to do our own. And so I gathered some key manufacturing personnel that my dad had used prior.
That were no longer working in the industry?
That's correct.
Oh, okay. Oh,
so I gathered actually only 3 of them at the time, a welder, an electrician, and a painter. I gathered them because I knew those were the 3 areas that involves in my business. So I gathered them at the time, and we went through it, and we started with the first clients. I went to a client and said, we're going to armor our own.
Okay.
And they said, okay. You know, they knew that we had been involved and that we knew what we were doing, so they said, okay. And so 3 vehicles, we started with 3 vehicles. And I started, no capital besides that.
Yeah.
I started with their deposits because we take 50% deposits, so about $90,000
right.
Of working capital, and started armoring our first 3 vehicles right there.
So how long, did they have to wait a long time then because you just started, or you got them in the same time period?
No, in the same time period.
Really?
Actually, yeah, we got them in about 2 to 3 months is what we usually produce a vehicle in.
About 3,
so.
Okay. Well, I'm sure, you know, we're fascinated with this subject and would like to know more. So you really started on your own, and that's a way a number of people start companies, especially as representatives, kind of sales rep. They see where there's opportunities, and in this case, you had kind of the brand, the Kimball family name for years past, and they were willing to kind of wait for the time and do it your own. And then after the 3, what were the next orders? Did you?
Yeah, and that's the biggest worry. You know, you got the first 3 down, you have to keep going. And you know, for the first couple years, maybe 2 to 3 years, I was producing only about 15 vehicles a year.
Okay.
So, you know, about 1 a month approximately, we'd be able to turn out, and it was okay. I mean, it wasn't a booming business. I think our first year we did about $550,000 worth of business, not very much. You know, and it was just enough to survive.
Yeah.
And that's all I was looking for, is just enough to survive, to feed my family, to get out of, you know, some debt that we accrued trying other things.
None of the children starved, right?
That's right. None of the children starved. That's right. So then after those 2 to 3 years, you know, it just started slowly escalating. It's not something that just boomed overnight.
Right.
It just, you know, we went from, I think, 550 to 800,000 to 1.2 million. It just slowly grew like that, and today we're producing about 120 vehicles a year, and we're looking to hopefully double that in the next 2 or 3 years.
So are you probably known in the industry as kind of the quality? I mean, how would you?
We are. What we push are the things that my father told me you have to push. He says the quality, the customer service, and then of course the price point. Those are the things where the customers are looking at. And we know that our pricing can always fluctuate depending on the quality. So we're compared to other manufacturers in other countries, because now there's armorers in Mexico, in Brazil, in the Middle East. Compared to them, we're very high quality. We're like the Germany of
you are.
Yeah, of armoring. But if you compare us to, you know, I think Mercedes-Benz armors their vehicles themselves. We're again back to the U.S. You know, the Chevrolet versus the Mercedes-Benz. So we're right between. We're affordable, yet we produce a quality product. And in our business, it's important that the customer can't tell that the vehicle's armored. So that's
is that right? So if we looked at one, we wouldn't know it?
No, you wouldn't. It takes a trained eye to actually see what is armored and what's not. that's the whole idea. We want our clients to be able to go and drive a regular automobile, whether it be an SUV or a sedan, and drive in their town or their city, and not everybody know that, hey, that's an armored vehicle.
Yeah.
We're not building them like the president has, Obama, where you can look at it and say, what's wrong with this vehicle? This is a tank.
Yeah. So you went from 3 employees and yourself in the first year to how many now?
We're currently at 50 employees.
Oh, okay. A lot more painters, electricians.
That's right. A lot more headaches, but yes, a lot more painters, electricians, and welders. That's right.
Well, tell us, what are the things you learned? I mean, in starting a company, going from that first year, and like many companies, you want to break even. I mean, you just want to break even, right, in the first year or two, and then gradually grow, which is a good strategy.
Yeah.
What were some of the lessons that you learned? I mean, looking back, anything you do differently?
Oh, I don't know if there's something that I do differently, but there's always lessons you learn. One of the key things that I always learned, and this is something, again, my father passed on to me, is the owner, the CEO, the president, whatever you want to call yourself, gets paid last. So that's something that had to happen several times actually starting out, because cash flow is different, and you gotta look at what you can pay and what you can't, and sometimes you don't take home that paycheck, and that's something that you got to be willing to sacrifice if you're going to be an entrepreneur. I think that's a common thing.
Well, that just discouraged half our
I know
young entrepreneurs.
It's a lot of stress.
And it is.
It is. My wife always teases me. I mean, we lived on credit cards, sometimes if you had to, and
to get the shortfalls.
Yeah, because it wasn't always easy.
Yeah, it's true. Well, tell us about some of your, it must be an interesting business. You do fly to Iran, Iraq, those really friendly countries, and Mexico, is that?
That's right. Well, most of the countries that we sell to, I've been to Saudi Arabia, India, West Africa, all over the Eastern Europe, Mexico, Central America. As far as South America, we don't get much into them. There's other people that provide to them. But so yeah, Haiti and Dominican Republic. So all the places that there's unrest. The Philippines is another good one. Other places where there's usually unrest there's usually a lot of wealthy and a lot of poor and very little in between.
Okay.
And so our clients are worried about being targets to kidnapping for ransom.
Yeah. And that's a big issue, especially in Mexico and other areas.
It is, and it's not like the U.S. where here in the United States, if you get kidnapped, the FBI are right there. In other countries, a lot of people get away with the kidnapping for ransom. It's a big business. They take you or your wife, or very rarely an older child. They don't. This is not little kids that we're talking about, and they'll charge anywhere between $50,000 to $2 million to give you back. And usually you do get whoever that is back, but it's a risk that you don't want to have to take.
They calculate return on investment. You're a good purchase.
That's right. That's right. They do. Our cars, start anywhere from $120,000 to it can go up to $500,000 depending on the type of vehicle. But when they look at the how much just the emotional problems that their wife or themselves might have by being kidnapped, they look at that and they look at the price, and it's well worth it.
And that's one of the things why you like, I assume, kind of doing this work, is because you save people's lives. In a way. I'm sure you get stories back, right? We do. Could you share any of those with us today?
Well, yeah. We hear back a few times. Most of the times I don't hear, but it's nice to hear back. One that happened here recently was just a contract worker for one of these large construction firms over in Iraq that's rebuilding Iraq.
Right.
They drive our vehicles, the executives do. And so they drive our vehicles, and they actually had a roadside bomb explode next to the Suburban that they were they were driving. And a roadside bomb, it's an IED, it's an explosive. It could range from 10 pounds of dynamite. I don't know much about them, but they're very usually they have ball bearings and all kinds of shrapnel, and they're looking to kill. They're looking to hurt. Yeah. And so this roadside bomb exploded next to the vehicle, and later I had heard the guy contact me, and he sent me pictures of him and his 2 girls and his wife.
Oh, is that right?
And it's an amazing story. He thanks us for saving him and his buddy's life that we're driving the vehicle. So I mean, that happens. Actually, I hear about quite often that's happened, and it's good to hear, because I mean, I know that what we're doing, I know the material we put in our vehicles will stop what we say it'll stop.
Right.
But it's good to have that confirmation that it will.
Yeah, you don't want to sit in them and test them, I'm sure. Right?
No,
it's
no.
Not like, well, let's talk about those materials, because you know, is there any James Bond things in there? You know. I mean,
well, there are. Besides being bulletproof,
right.
And I'll show you the materials here. But besides being bulletproof, we do add some James Bond type accessories, like a smoke screen system.
Okay.
So it's a cloud of smoke that creates behind your vehicle while you're driving. In case someone's following you, you can, kind of fog them out. They can't see a thing. Or there's a road tack dispensing system. So just by pressing a button, you'll have these little spikes drop from the back of your vehicle, and they'll puncture the tires of the person following you.
I mean, that'd be interesting. Does anyone hit the wrong button once in a while? You ever get stories on that?
We do. Yeah, we do. In fact, clients will call us and say, "Hey, I pushed this thing, and I had my bodyguards following me in a car behind me, and they're flat tires and all this." It was not fun.
So it does happen.
Yes, it does. It does. And another thing we have is electric shocking door handles.
Oh.
So if you grab the door handle, you'll get a jolt. It keeps the people from pulling you out. A common thing that happens is they'll actually whoever's attacking you, the assailants, will actually hit your vehicle, and the door locks on the vehicle are made to open right away when you're in an accident. It's a safety feature.
Okay.
Your airbags come out and your door locks unlock. It's so you can get out of your vehicle. Well, in these cases, what they were doing is they're hitting the vehicle. The door locks, because they know they're in an armored vehicle, the door locks open up, and they open the door and pull the person out.
Okay.
Defeats the armored car. Yeah, really quick. So what we've done is we created a door locking system that you actually lock yourself into the vehicle. So we call it a deadbolt locking system, because it's like a deadbolt. All the doors you're locked inside your vehicle.
Right.
Because that's where you want to stay. You don't. A lot of clients will say, well, I want to fire back. Give me a gun mounted on the top or something, and these guys are unexperienced usually.
Yeah.
They wouldn't know what to do if they were under attack anyway. So we tell them, stay in your vehicle. That's your safest place to be, and use your vehicle as a weapon. I mean, if they're in front of you, plow them over. You have 1,000, 1,500 pounds more weight added to your vehicle because of the armor. So you can really take them out if you needed to.
So do you train them some? Do you say what to do? I mean, do you even have a short training course?
We do. We do.
Oh, you do?
We do some training. Usually when we provide vehicles to some state, heads of state for other countries. So they'll send their chauffeurs over to us. We'll provide an offensive training package and actually an armored car training, so they know that how it's going to feel, because like I said, it's about 1,500 pounds more weight. Right. So they're going to have to be able to maneuver the vehicle and do that kind of stuff.
Well, let's.
Yeah, I can show you the materials.
Let's see some of the materials on this.
So I brought some materials here. First of all, we use a lightweight armor. I'll grab the lightest thing here so far. We use a lightweight armor. What this is it's called Spectra Shield.
Okay.
It's a polyethylene. So it is a fiber. I think they use this material also in wakeboarding ropes and kayaks, if you're familiar with that material.
But pretty stiff when you
It is. So it's layered. It's a lot of layers of the material. And so basically this we put in the doors, and it's very lightweight. If you want to hold that, it's about 3 pounds per square foot.
Yeah.
So
on a rough day after giving finals, I may want to wear something here.
So you can see what we shot it with. We shot it with an AK-47, an M16, AR-15. So different rounds were used. And these are high-power assault rifles. These aren't your handguns that your 22 or your 9mm. So in the back, this is what it does to the armor. So it goes in, but it actually does not penetrate the armor. So this is in your door.
Okay.
So this is what we're looking to do is stop penetration. We don't want the bullets coming in to kill anybody. So that's what we're doing.
Wow.
So
here, I'll just.
Okay.
Yeah, you can go put that down.
Okay, I'll put it down. And then in other areas of the vehicle, we put this ballistic steel. Wow. So this will go. Let me set this.
I'm not going to hold that one.
No,
this is okay.
This is actually 13 pounds per square foot. So that's the reason we don't want to use this material in the vehicle, all over the vehicle. We want to use the lightweight material because we want to save the weight. So this material is 5/16 inch hardened ballistic steel. It's not your everyday common steel. And you can see it can take a lot of rounds.
Wow.
I mean, these are all AK-47s, a few AR-15 rounds.
Doesn't look like it even dented it much.
No, it didn't. And then you go to the back, and I think this is the biggest little dent that we have here. So it's not very penetrative. But we don't want to use this all over.
No.
Because it'll be too heavy.
Right.
So that's one of the advances we've made at a company.
So do you make your own? I mean, do you kind of generate your own kind of materials in a way? I mean, that are kind of unique, or?
We don't. We use unique materials.
Okay.
We don't make the materials ourselves.
Right.
But we use, most armorers out there will use all steel.
Okay.
And then the ballistic glass.
That's your windshield?
This is like a windshield, or this is about 2 inches thick. It's called 40 millimeter. So it stops the same rounds that we've been talking about, AK-47, M16 type rounds. Boy, just picking these up, I'm lost my...
Yeah.
Anyway, so the bullets penetrate, it breaks the glass. It's several layers of glass, but then on the back end, you have what we call a polycarbonate or a plastic, and it actually catches the shards of glass coming at you and actually stops the bullet too. See, so so it's I can rub my hand all through here and there's no penetration. So that's what we're looking to do.
And those don't roll up and down, do they?
It's a good question. They actually do.
Oh, they do.
They actually do.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we custom make our motors to make the window go up and down. It'll go down about halfway is what we try to get. So you got the front door glasses. If the guy wants it to roll down, they'll go down about halfway. Okay.
So I'm just curious. So someone takes a shot at it, breaks the window, then do you get to replace it?
We do. We do, and we do that actually quite often also.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. Usually, sometimes
the whole car, just sometimes the windows? I mean,
usually what they'll do is another, for instance, I mean, another, we had a vehicle last year, was in West Africa.
Right.
It was a Hummer H2, fully armored, and he drives into his compound, and about 40 terrorists, whatever you want to call them, assailants, wanting him to kidnap him, starts firing on him. He drives into his compound because that's where he lives.
Right.
So he drives in and kills his little bodyguards that he has, and just start firing on him with the AK-47s.
And he's in the vehicle.
He's in the vehicle. So but he's already trapped. So they're firing on him. He said it was over 90 to 120 rounds they found just on his vehicle. He stayed in the vehicle. They finally got tired. I mean, plus they were, other people were coming to get them.
Oh, okay.
So about 20 minutes this went on. They finally knew they weren't going to get him out. They went in the house, grabbed his wife, and kidnapped her.
Oh.
They charged about $500,000 for her. So, I mean, he was safe, but unfortunately, his wife wasn't with him at the time. So
like, what do you do when a car's been shot up that much?
So on this one, we sent we told the guy to buy a new one, but sometimes they don't think that way.
I wonder why.
I don't know. But so he actually bought all the glass from us again. I mean, every glass needed to be replaced.
Right.
And then with the other material, you really only have to replace. The steel will still be good.
Right.
The door armor we sent also out there, and then they did the body work on the vehicle, and we're going to install the glass here in the next month.
Did you send a team out there then all the way?
We did. We sent two technicians over there to Iraq, or not, excuse me, Iraq, West Africa, and did the installation there.
Oh, wow, that's fantastic. Fantastic. Well. Lots of experiences. I mean, this is kind of a business that keeps you entertained.
It does. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I saw it when I was growing up, so it's something that I knew that I wanted to do.
Right.
And so, to be able to have the same success or similar successes my father had, it's quite rewarding also.
So, what as you kind of look back and that, what's fulfilling about having a company? like this? I mean, you started, you can look back, how many years now have you been in?
It's it'll be about 12 years or 13 years.
12 years,
yeah.
13. And you look back to when you had the 3 people. And are those same 3 people still with you, a lot of those people?
One is.
Oh, good.
Yeah. The other 2 just decided to move on. So, yeah, we have one of the guys still with us, the electrician, okay. The welder and the painter, if you know anything about welders and painters. Anyway.
Oh, okay, yeah, personalities.
Yeah. So, yeah, the electrician's still with us. And it is, you know, the best thing I think about it is being able to serve, having your own time.
Right.
Sometimes, I mean, of course, there's a lot of hard work.
Right.
But there's also some time where you're able to do things on your own, as far as service related, you know, through the church or
right.
through other, you know, time with my kids. Now, of course, you know, in the beginning I was traveling quite a bit, and so I, you know, I'm compensating probably now for some of that lost time, but those things are the most rewarding part. Just being able to now go to, you know, my son's t-ball practice or whatever, yeah. or my son's basketball practice and those things, and yeah. being able to be involved with them. So, and then the other, you know, the being your own boss. I knew from the time I was really young, you know, as a 12-year-old or 14-year-old or whatever age you start mowing lawns. That's what I did. I had my own business. You know, I had my friends were my 2 employees. You know, I'd pay them, you know, $5 an hour, and I'd make the rest. Yeah. You know, and they'd help me knock out 25 lawns a week, and we were able to do that. And so, you know, I knew I was never going to be able to work for anybody else. I did that once. I worked at Chuckarama here while I was going to school. It's not.
And how was that experience?
That was awful.
Okay, well.
Yeah. Anyway.
Listen, let's take the time. Thanks so much for taking
no
some time with us today, and we'll allow the students now to ask questions on his business. You can call on.
Okay. Go ahead.
Do you drive an armored car?
I don't. Unfortunately, I don't need it. Like my clients. They're the ones, you know, they're very wealthy. This isn't for everybody. Unfortunately, the wealthy, when we think of wealthy here in the U.S., the clients that I have here in the U.S. are extremely wealthy. Now, the clients in other countries, you know, they're probably what we consider medium, you know, medium to high income. So I don't need one to answer that question. It's a common question, though.
But if you did, you'd use one.
If I need, yeah, if I needed one, I would use one. I mean, so anybody else? Go ahead.
What were you on the news for yesterday?
Geraldo is doing the war on the drug trafficking that's going on in Mexico. So right now, I think the drug traffickers have about 100,000 soldiers working for them. That they're just a lot of deaths, a lot of killing that's going on.
And kidnapping.
And kidnapping. Yep, that's how they finance a lot of their stuff. So. Well, that's how the soldiers finance their stuff. Right. The drug traffickers don't. But anyway, so they're doing a lot of kidnapping. So a lot of our customers in this situation, what he wanted to talk about was the border violence. So we have a lot of Americans or even Mexican nationals that live in the U.S. traveling back and forth across the border in cities like Laredo, El Paso, San Diego, where else? In Arizona, Tucson area, Phoenix area. So some of those guys that need to cross the border, they armor their vehicles.
Sounds like you have a pretty good model that sells. Are you constantly looking for innovations or ways to improve your vehicles?
We are, yeah. And it's difficult, and something that we rely on technology to advance us. This lightweight material is about 15 years old, so it's been around a while. It's the new Kevlar. You've probably heard of Kevlar. This is the new Kevlar, which 15 years old is in you know, computer age. It's not new at all, but for us, this is advanced technology. But we rely on other things. We're always looking at other types of armor to improve our vehicles. We want to reduce weight as much as possible, and so the vehicles last longer. We want, and then also, of course, provide a quality end product to our customers.
What kind of cars do you usually
that's a good
armor?
question.
Because you know, I'm sure no one's asked that yet, and I'm interested in that.
Yeah, the most common vehicles that we armor right now are Toyota Land Cruisers or Lexus, the same vehicle, but it's
RX.
a Lexus LX 570, I think it's called. Suburbans, and then we do a lot of Mercedes sedans, Mercedes SUVs, BMW sedans, those type of vehicles. What we always try to tell the client is, you know, buy something that you would be seen driving. Sometimes they think, well, I just want like a Corolla or you know, something, and you know, they're not going to believe that that's you anyway, even though you want to be, you know, hidden. It's just not what you would be driving. So buy something that you would be seen driving, but also don't, you know, go out and get, you know, the Rolls Royce or the Bentley or whatever. You know, stay within, you know, a reason. So that's why they do the SUVs, because a lot of times the mothers or the wives or spouses will be driving the SUVs, the Suburbans or the Lexus or Land Cruisers. So that's we do a lot of those.
Good point.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you have to beef up the engines or do engine modifications? Because it seems with 2,000 extra pounds that would slow it down quite a bit.
It's about 1,500 pounds, but it's still, we don't do engine modifications. We do suspension upgrades and braking upgrades. The engines are usually these cars have V8 engines, and they have about over 350 horsepower usually. So usually that's enough engine to move these vehicles. Actually, it's plenty of engine. Once in a while, we'll get a client that say, hey, you know, throw a turbocharger in there or supercharger or whatever, and we'll do that for him. But it's not necessary. But the upgrades to the suspension and the brakes are necessary upgrades, and those are standard. Yeah, go ahead.
Along those same lines with the engine, how do you protect the engine from attacks beneath the vehicle?
That's a good question. We provide radiator protection, because that's an important. The engine itself is not. It can be bullet resistant to an extent, but we provide the radiator. We armor the computer, or what we call the ECU, electronic control, or ECM, electronic control module. So we armor that. We'll armor the fuel tank, and we'll armor the battery box. And those are basically 3 or 4 items that we'll do to the engine. But our main concern is, of course, the occupants in the vehicle. And I know this is questions coming, so I'll jump to it. Is the tires have a run-flat tire insert inside the tire. It's like a hard plastic donut that tightens down to your rim, and then once your regular tire is punctured, you basically drop down onto that hard plastic donut and keep rolling on that. You can go about 30 miles, going about 50 miles per hour. So, go ahead.
What sort of liability issues do you face in this sort of industry?
That's a good question. You know, that's a common question. Hopefully, if they're under attack and you know, something happens, they can't come claim against us, you know. No, that's the funny answer. Liability, there's you know, we do product liability insurance, I mean, that type of thing. But as far as our materials, most of these materials are produced by other manufacturers, so we rely on their product liability as much as possible.
Yeah.
See, since we're just installing, you know, we're like the stereo installers, you know, but it's a lot different. I mean, so, you know, we're relying on the manufacturers of the materials they go through all the testing, the stringent testing. They go through everything on their materials to provide that for us. So, go ahead.
Most of your clients have like a high risk life, like I would say, and so I assume most of them or some of them could be part of the drug cartel themselves. Is there any way you can monitor that to make sure that you're not?
It's a good question. That happens actually. That's a very common question. Starting in about 2004, the U.S. Department of Commerce has required all of our vehicles to have an end-user license or an end-user certificate. So before 2004, what we did is we did our own fact checking and made sure that these, you know, were selling to the right people. But now, post 2004, the U.S. Department of Commerce is actually doing that for us. We just get the information, who the end user is, and they're not getting the vehicle if they can't pass the scrutiny of the U.S.
Before you build the car, do you get that approved? So is it approved
During the process.
During the process, okay.
So, and another thing is, what I try to explain is, you know, most of the drug traffickers aren't going to be purchasing items in the U.S. It's just too hard for them to wash the money that way. So most of they're going to get their vehicles elsewhere. I hope that answered your question. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Can you talk more about when you started up? I know
Yeah.
the guns and all that stuff is awesome.
No, I understand. I know, and this is it's difficult with this kind of class to find out. You want to know how it
I'm
happened.
kind of curious about, you know, you talked about your dad provided a lot of the connections when you first started up. I just am curious, how much did he provide? How much was you going in and being that?
Actually, more what he provided, not a lot of the connections, because his connections, he had been out of it for about 5 years. So his connections were a little bit lost in this time. But more what he provided was just counseling, you know, like a mentor. You know, what do I do with funds? Once I get the funds, you know, how do I set up the banking and all that stuff? That's more what he provided. As far as the actual contacts, and I mean, that's all legwork, groundwork. You know, I'd go to him and say, hey, what did you do for advertising? You know, and he'd say, you know, I never paid for advertising. Use free advertising. That's what, you know, that's what we use. Or I'd, you know, go to find out, you know, exactly what he did on dirt and things. So he's more like a mentor. More in that case, the contacts had kind of been dried up, and so I had to go and establish new relationships with new heads of securities for different companies, so that was a lot of traveling. We did that. When I first started out, our main market was Mexico, and because of just the proximity to San Antonio, Texas, so we were providing vehicles to the cement companies, the cigarette, beer, all the large industry companies. That's what we were providing vehicles to. So I don't know if I answered your question. So startup was, you know, it was more, I had to just jump in there, and it was something I knew and I cared about and wanted to be successful. That's, I think, important is if you're thinking about a business, if you have a business idea, make sure it's in your, you know, you're not going too far out of who you are. So pick something that you're actually involved with. You know, this is something I grew up with, so this is the next step. So I think that's important if you're thinking about that.
But Trent, mentoring and everything's important.
It is.
But the reality is, it's hard work that makes it happen.
Right? That's correct. It is hard work. Yeah. It is hard work. Keep going.
Yep.
Okay.
More questions.
How did you find your manufacturers that you have now? Because, I mean, I know you're looking for a product that has a lot of quality and is really strong. So how did you go about finding what you wanted?
As far as the materials?
Right.
Yeah, you know, that's a good question. Once we started, some of the materials we knew about, because again, that was a question that I went to my dad for. You know, who are your providers? So he gave me a list of different providers he'd use. So what I would go is I'd find out who were the quality providers, make sure we're using quality materials like the quality glass, because there's a lot of glass companies that make what I consider garbage. You know, it's an important process. There's layers, and you can get dust in there, and clarity and optical and all that stuff you have to look into. And as far as the lightweight material, you know, whether we use ceramic or, you know, this material, the polyethylene, you really rely on what has been used in the past. But then again, you want to set yourself apart from the other guys that are out there. So it's like it's almost a question you have to ask yourself. You know, what kind of product do you want to provide? You want to provide a quick and fast product, and that's good too. You know, there's need for that out there. Or do you want to provide a quality product, or do you want to provide a real high-end product and only do, you know, 6 vehicles a year and charge $1 million for them? Because I mean, you could do that too. Yeah. So
do you measure client satisfaction?
We do.
You do?
Yeah, it's important. We get feedback from clients on you know, some of our clients are used to armoring vehicles. Right. They're used to driving in them. They know how they feel. They know how they look. We have new clients all the time that had never been in an armored vehicle, and those are the ones we actually go to, because it's important for us for them to feel comfortable with something they've never used before. You know, of course, the door is going to be a little heavier.
Right.
You know, it's going to handle a little bit different. But what things can we do for you to make it an easy, comfortable feel for you?
Great. More questions?
Anything else? Yeah, go ahead.
How many other competitors do you have in the U.S., and then what separates you from them?
Okay. There's approximately about 4 or 5 in the U.S. We kind of created our niche for ourselves in providing vehicles to non-State Department. So there's actually manufacturers that will armor all the State Department vehicles. When I say State Department, like for the embassies and for anybody else that needs armored vehicles for their use, for government use. And then there's about 2 or 3 of us that only provide vehicles to civilians or very wealthy businessmen. But what we separate ourselves from is, of course, the high quality. We want to be high quality and then for a good price. So a lightweight vehicle is what we really push. Some of the armors will only do an all-steel vehicle. They're still back in what I consider the ice ages of armoring a vehicle. I mean, you're talking about 2,500 pounds added to a vehicle. It's just a real heavy beast, a tank. But they can do it for about $15,000 less. So we have to judge what we want to do. Do we want to armor, like that, or do we want to armor using a vehicle that's going to last, more than 5 years, because these other vehicles won't last that long. So I hope that answered your question there. Go ahead.
As you were beginning, when were you first able to have international customers, or when were you able to provide for them?
That's actually at the beginning. Our business is primarily international. In the U.S., we provide very few vehicles, but mainly our business is all international, and that's from the very beginning. And going on my mission to Spanish-speaking country, that helped, because in those days I was dealing mainly with Mexico, so I was able to communicate with the Mexican clients, the heads of security for those companies, and be able to do that for them.
Do you still do that, or do you now have sales reps that go down, or what?
I'm not involved with customers as much as before. I have several salespeople now that handle most of those.
Oh, okay.
But actually, the way the company, I don't have much longer, but the way the industry has evolved is, instead of phone calls, you're dealing now with electronic, inquiries, emails, and through your website, and so it's a lot different. It's more written, more,
like
electronic brochures.
And bids. Is that right? So
yeah.
A lot of bids. It's not face to face. I would have thought it was the other.
No, yeah, it's actually evolved, and that's not my forte. I don't do a lot of that, so I had to hire people that know how to do it. So that's what I did.
Okay, well, thanks so much for coming today. I think if we kind of summarize today, what Trent has brought to us is that, again, we see the passion of entrepreneurs and the willingness to do hard work. But more importantly, I think you started in sales, which is a typical area that a lot of our entrepreneurs come out of. They see opportunities and they pounce on them because they see where there's opportunities in the market, where these strategic windows are. And that's what you did.
Yeah.
And then, of course, mentoring helps.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's right. So use your mentors.
Yeah, that's right. Use your mentors. Well, thanks so much for coming today, and appreciate the time you spent here.
Thank you.
Okay.